Welcome back, everyone, to the AAA, also known as the AAA podcast, where we talk everything from alcoholism to recovery. I'm your host, Jovan, along with the one and only.
Darren G, how's it going?
That's right. And we're back for another episode. Who'd believe it, eh? They said we'd never be back, but here we are. No. Okay, so
oh my.
right off the bat, we don't even have anything. People can immediately see that I have a very strange background, and it probably tells what we're going to be talking about. So, for our American audience and for our general audience abroad who might be thinking, what? Huh? What's going on? In Canada, we have something called Thanksgiving. Americans say, sure, so do we. But in Canada, we have it like a month early. So, we have already had our Thanksgiving, and that will be the general theme of today's episode. So
I honestly forgot it was Thanksgiving, to be honest, because
same.
I'm international. I'm international. The phone Siri reminded me. I was like, what the?
And plus,
Dang.
I'm not going around talking to the locals to,
Yeah, no,
know that it's happening. I just get a text from my mom saying Thanksgiving, and I'm like, okay. Now I know. She's like, so you coming over this weekend? I'm like, why? She goes, Thanksgiving. And I go, okay.
See, and that's like going to be a great topic about my situation this weekend and this week. It's just been like crazy with like family is absolutely like family can be a blessing or it can just be like, oh my goodness,
a curse upon us.
Seriously, it's just brutal.
That's what Thanksgiving brings out, right? Brings out the best and or the worst. It's just one of those things. Yeah. But yeah, so we both experienced Thanksgiving. Can we say that much? We met up with the families this weekend?
No, I didn't. I honestly didn't experience anything this weekend. It's crazy. It's like insane. And like well, even too, what we're gonna mention, guys, is this is kind of gonna be a 2-part episode.
Yes.
So we're gonna kind of just really reflect on our weekend and week this month. It's just been a lot of like family, a lot of downtime. It's just taking it easy. Everybody's still doing this COVID stuff, so again, it's the gatherings have to be to a minimal, things like this.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's maybe somewhat of the reason why I spent Thanksgiving alone, which is I don't want to say it like it's like a bad thing. It's just because I do have family, but the whole reason is sometimes family's a lot.
Yeah. And you can use the excuse of like they said no more bubbles. So if you weren't living with them already, then yeah, the safe bet is to do a Zoom or nothing at all. So
yeah, and which I wasn't living with them. So it's like I'm not gonna go. I don't know. That's just me. We also we got to watch the second part to The Shining, which is I think that's what it essentially is. Like when you look it up on Google or like Wiki, it says it's a part 2 or like
like it's narratively a direct sequel, but it doesn't have the same name, so it'd be hard to tell for those that aren't knowledgeable of the novels. But yeah, it is a part 2, absolutely. I mean, it's October. It's Spooktober, as many people call it, so it fits the season perfectly. Yeah, so it's just that'll be the 2 of the 2 parts. So part 1 is this guy back here, this theme, this tradition, this whatever, without getting into the history of it. I got the history behind me, the retelling of the history, regardless of what the actual history was. But as we know it now, it is a time to eat turkey together. Maybe pumpkin pie, maybe some cranberries. I ain't about that cranberry life, but actually, can I ask you that? Do you enjoy cranberry sauce? Did you ever have that?
I do like cranberry sauce. I actually make really good cranberry sauce. The trick is the trick is if you can add a cinnamon stick and like some orange rinds. That's the trick, people.
That's a trick. Write it down.
Yep, that's the trick.
Yeah. I'd say noted, but like I just don't like the texture or the taste. It's a me thing. It's not a cranberry thing. But who knows? Hey, maybe it's one of those things where maybe if I just eat it'll be fine. It's the idea of it. Yeah.
Everybody has their stuff. Like I just realized too, like as a kid, you're just thinking you have to eat everything. It's like, no, I don't want that on my plate.
Yeah. Well,
like Brussels sprouts and stuff like that. Get that stuff off my plate.
They go, you have to eat it.
It's like, so, no.
Yeah.
I had a big lunch.
So yeah, let's jump into it. So, would you want to talk about your experience first, or how do you want to do it?
Yeah, like well, what did you do? Did you have like a traditional dinner, all that jazz?
Yeah, so on my side of things, we canceled it with my grandma on my dad's side, which so I believe I've already said this at least a couple times on this podcast, but my dad's not in the picture. He's out of here. I definitely mentioned that in the steps, I feel like.
Yes, you
Um,
have mentioned it.
but his parents are great. So I still hang out with them all the time, right? So Christmas, Easter, all the basic holidays, the statutory holidays, we always meet up with them. But and like we did with or no, we didn't do it with Easter. But then we did it in the summertime for my grandpa's birthday, and then we are going to do Thanksgiving. But then, this very mild second lockdown happened, so we had to
Hmm.
cancel it. So instead, I just met with my immediate family. They were part of my bubble, so even though the bubble is now broken in Ontario, I still met with them one more time, and then now it's just going to be like never again. But yeah,
Just saying
or at
like
least not
that.
for a little while.
Never
But yeah,
again.
so I was with my mom and all of my siblings and my brother's girlfriend and my sister's boyfriend and then with my girlfriend. So it was sizable because I got four other siblings, right? And then plus those other three, and then my sister's got a baby. So it was a sizable thing. It basically for people who have smaller families, that was like an entire extended family meeting, except it was our
Yeah,
immediate. Yeah.
exactly.
And
Wow.
we did dinner, we did the whole shebang, and yeah. So I'll get into the details later, but that was my situation. That was my status of the event. Yeah.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah.
That sounds lovely. Normally we would have like a big dinner at my like aunt's that lives
Okay.
In Burlington, right on the water.
Yeah.
She has a
Okay.
beautiful place on the
Yeah.
water, so we'd
Yeah.
always have it there. But even then, for me, I would avoid those dinners.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I just don't really like my family. I don't know how to. It's like almost things. It's like there's certain things where it's like I don't know how to describe it. It's almost like
Well, the closer you are to someone, the more unbearable they can be, depending on
it's like
the
having
relationship you're
it's
in.
like being like in a like having a baby and the baby is just annoying you and it's like it's a baby. It's like I hate the baby, but I just that's my baby. I don't like I can't. You know what I mean? It's like things you don't
Yeah.
want
You can't.
to
You
say
don't
out
choose your family.
loud. You don't
Yeah.
want to say this out loud, but in your head you're just like, "Oh my god, this baby's driving me nuts."
Hmm.
Um that's honestly how I feel about my family. I just don't like being in their presence. I don't like being around them. I don't like agree with anything usually they say. It's just nonsense to me. And that like honestly, I think I've just been doing like a lot of reflecting lately and I just realized that like I am like a very like angry person. Like I'm so angry on the inside and I don't know why. And I
Right.
think a lot of it has to do with my family. The way they've structured things and like just let
Right.
certain other individuals in my family get away with things and it's very messy and I'm realizing that's has a lot to do with why I was drinking for so long and it's just a mess. It's like this Thanksgiving just really like made me like reflect on that.
Right. Yeah. But you didn't um, partake
No,
in any family event, and I'm just curious
no. My dad didn't even text
when
me.
he didn't even text.
Nah, my dad didn't even text me. My sister
When was the
texted
last
me.
time? When was the last time you did one? Like just
Um,
last year, or had
no,
it
I
been?
did one last year for myself and my friends.
Yeah,
And like
yeah,
the year
yeah,
before that, I'll just do one for myself and friends. It was huge, so I'll make it really big, like a nice, really big one. But
yeah.
this year, because we're COVID, I'm by myself. So
Obviously, yeah, you can't invite a bunch of people in different places over. Yeah, but yeah, yeah, no,
and
that's
everybody's at their own, right? So it's like
yeah. You
it's
could always do
just
a Zoom thing,
times
but
are
that's
just different.
really complicated, especially with food. So yeah,
Yeah, times are just different now.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
But
I just
it was a time to reflect. You were saying, yeah. So what in what way, or at least what did you make for yourself for dinner?
well, Thanksgiving, I honestly didn't
Yeah.
make anything. I had craft dinner on Thanksgiving.
Ah, well, that's still warm at least. It still fits the season, right?
Oh,
KD,
that's so sweet.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is like I kind of like was just like maybe expecting to get invited to family
Right.
or something, and then it didn't happen. So it was like, oh, now you're just realizing, okay, you really are kind of alone. So it's like,
Well, it's
okay.
cold. Yeah.
And what you kind of have to do is I just had to like really just suck it up and just be like, you know what? This is a hard time, but
Mhm.
it's me in the world. It's not. I can't really just be depending on people to make me happy, and like I can't be depending on just assuming things. And even though they're family and you think like certain things will happen, even just with like my close family, like just like my dad and things like that, you
Mm.
think that like it doesn't have to be like, oh, with my aunts and uncles and things like that. It's just something more close knit where he's just like not that type of person where he really is considerate. He just kind of just cares about
Yeah,
himself, which is like,
yeah,
it's fine in some way, because then we got into an argument with my, it's just like just constant stress, and it's hard to like kind of go
yeah.
into because it's family, right? Because it's like there's so much
So
other
much
stuff.
history.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah.
history.
You'd have to like keep doing backstories forever
But
to be able to explain it.
they keep dragging you into it somehow. It's like you try to get away and they drag you into it. And it's like,
Yeah,
geez. And I told my dad, I'm like, this is why I don't drink, because when I did drink, I would go. This would be the worst situation ever. Like I would have literally have flipped. And I
yeah,
think maybe that's what it is. Like I often don't sleep. Like most nights I don't sleep. Like,
mm,
which I'm thinking, okay, that's probably like an issue, because like when I do sleep, I'll have like really bad nightmares,
yeah,
but they're like really bad. Like they're like I'll wake up, I'm just like covered in sweat, like I have to change my sheets and stuff like this.
yeah,
Where it's like I'm like super angry in the dreams, like it's weird. And like I just
yeah,
kind of like realized that like I was texting my dad and things like that, and like about situations with my other family, and I realized that it's like they are the ones that kind of make me like real like this. Like
yeah.
when I was
Well,
drinking the most, I was living at home.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's probably where it stemmed. That was the bigger
Yeah,
issue. So, is it okay if I ask, but do you think it's dysfunction or actual toxicity that forced you to react the way that you have and hold this anger
I
inside you?
I honestly don't really know. I think that's what I'm trying to kind of figure out.
Right.
It's
If
like,
it's
why
just a
am I hold?
miscommunication or if it's actually bad.
It's, I
Yeah.
think it's not really a miscommunication. I think the people in my family have a little bit of a mental issues,
Okay. Yeah.
and you can't really you can't really say anything or judge people on, you're not a doctor, so you can't just go and
Yeah.
diagnose people, which is fair enough. But
Hmm.
there's one thing of there's reality, and then there's their reality, and their reality, it doesn't really match with everyday's reality, and that's kind of what bugs the hell out of me.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really frustrates, it like really frustrates me, like it absolutely just frustrates me.
Hmm.
And I think that's maybe what a lot of it has to do with. Like I'm thinking, like in my head, I'm in my body, I'm thinking the best solution for me probably is to be the farthest away from my family.
Yeah.
Like I see why some people they don't communicate with their family. And it's not that like I don't
Mhm.
love them or care about them. It's just more of for my own sanity.
Well, yeah, when you're around them, they can become so infuriating that it
It's like
causes
I
you
don't
to,
it
yeah,
just
like
doesn't
just,
match. Nothing matches ever.
yeah.
It's like being in a bad relationship and then you're like, okay, you know what, let's try it again. And then you try it
Yeah,
again, and
because
it's the same shit happening over and over and over again. It's like this is gonna work.
yeah. And you hope that, yeah, like they'll something will change or they'll become more considerate or something, and it just doesn't happen.
Something, and it just
Yeah.
never ever happened ever. So it's like, but
Yeah.
why do you keep doing this? It's like, oh, because they're family. But it's like
Hmm.
at the end of the day, though, you're alone. You're by yourself in the world. They
Well, you're an
when
adult now. Yeah,
yeah, it's
it's
like
you're now at a point where you are independent and you're able to make decisions like who you want to spend your life with.
mhm,
And it's um not to try to make comparisons, but just as an analogy, because this is something that's extremely well known in like the LGBTQA plus community, is that I don't know what the statistics are. I don't know if it's half or more than half, but families will reject them because of something they had no choice over, and then so they literally have to leave their family and make their own family. It's insane that
yeah,
we live in a world where people have to do that. They're rejected by their family and they're just ostracized. Like
yeah,
that's the most awful thing someone that close to you can do. That's like heartbreaking. And then these people have to make their own families. And that's something that can happen with dysfunctional families or toxic families. And that's unfortunately what it sounds like your situation is with your family.
yeah.
And yeah,
It's
and it's nothing that
honestly
can be
brutal.
diagnosable because yeah, I'm not a doctor either, but situationally, just by actions alone, it's bad. You know, you don't need a degree to know if something's bad.
Exactly. It's like
Yeah.
there's one. It's like it's just common sense. Like I'm just realizing that anytime I'm speaking with them or just like in contact, I'm a different. It's like a.
Just brings out the worst.
Remember I was saying the vampire. It's like it brings that. It's like I start to change. I'm just like
Yeah.
this isn't me. I don't know what it is. It's like this is so. I don't understand how I can't control my like when in everyday life I'm so like I'm just like such a like I'm more of a
More
calm
composed.
person. I'm more
Yeah.
composed. Like I'm just like more aware. I'm like this is fine. Everything just brushes off my shoulders. Da, da, da. And then something with my family. It's like I like go into a. It's almost like I can like draw blood from my hands because I'm just like infuriated. Just like to
Yeah.
be in their like presence, be like talking. It's just certain times
Hmm.
it gets me on the wrong day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so the way that I can relate to that is with, so I mentioned earlier that I have four siblings,
Mhm.
and I'm good with all of them except for one. And I want it to be good, and I feel like the further away I am from this person, the better our relationship is, just purely by us not seeing that much of each other. But he's just, yeah, he's inconsolable. He's intolerable. He'll just always say the worst things. And you're like, who the fuck? Like, how did we have the same childhood and you're this way? Like, you're an awful human being.
That's
And that's just from my perspective, but also objectively or progressively or whatever you want to think about it. It's like he is a worse person in that regard. And it's just one of those things where it's like he's my brother. There's nothing else I can do about it. He's just like this is the person who's in my life, but he
yeah.
makes me want to go away from him and be away. And yeah, so it's like I only have that with one person. It's not my entire family, but from that I can at least understand the idea of wanting to be close to someone, but then every time you do, you're just like, fuck, I got to get away from you before I punch a wall. And
Yes.
then it
One
keeps and
hundred
then
percent.
as soon as you're away, you're like, why did I go away? And you want to come back, and then as soon as you come back, you're like, oh yeah, that's why. And it's just this endless cycle. Yeah.
It's an endless cycle, and it's like because they're family. It's like you keep going back, right? And keep giving them that chance. Oh, hi.
Sorry, yeah, that's my dog.
It's
He's an
okay.
old man, so
He's
he just woke up and coughed. Yeah.
guys. We
Yeah.
forgot to mention that this isn't only a two-part episode. It's going to be a three-person episode as well. We have a co-host in the back.
That's right, little Mo.
Mention.
Yeah, I got him sitting in his own doggy bed, but the doggy bed's on my bed because he can't get enough softness. He
Uh,
he is he is in the twilight of his life, so he's in an end life care situation.
he's more than welcome to jump in anytime. I mean, that's how
To
rubbish.
heart's
That's how
content.
rubbish this is. He understands. It's complete rubbish.
He gets it. Yeah. He
Cough,
understands the
cough,
pain.
cough.
Yeah.
Seriously, I can't.
That's a good
It's
reaction.
stressful.
He's like the audience listening. He's like, man, this just wants to makes me want to hack just listening to how toxic people can be in
Struggle,
relationships.
struggle.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to mention too is like during this time, everybody's kind of like drinking and celebrating and gathering and
That's a
like
big component.
being
Yeah.
thankful to be together and things like this. How did you kind of feel about this?
Well, I'll let my
I know
dog
how
say his
someone
piece
felt in the
first.
back. I know how someone
Yeah,
felt in the
yeah, that's
back.
how he was feeling. He's like, "You got to be kidding me!" But yeah, so aside from him being part of the Gert gang, as they call it, um, yeah, my thing is obviously this. It isn't the first Thanksgiving of me being sober; it's the second. So even though I'm not 2 years sober, I'm going. It's just funny. He's looking over at me, but yeah, it's something where being in um, a setting that has less people than it normally does with my extended family. Um, the chaos is a lot less severe, and it's easier for me not to drink. Whereas when you're in a crowd of like 30 people, you it doesn't make me want to drink, but it there's more of a cause to because and everybody else does it for the same reason. It's because it loosens you up and it makes it easier just to like jump in and out of conversations with so many people and it's just more chaotic and that kind of thing. When there's less people, it's easier to talk to people and you feel less of a need to drink generally. Like people who are drinking and aren't drinking, right? It's like they don't feel like it's the same as a house party. Like they got to drink and then they'll be good to go, kind of thing. Um, so I have, this year especially had no issue with that side of things at all. But everybody was drinking, and there was one instant where I was like, oh, I'm not getting FOMO, but I'm definitely missing out. Was my mom brewed a pot of apple cider mixed with whiskey It was very
Oh
interesting,
wow.
and it was like in a big pot, so it was kind of like a stew, and you just pour it into a mug, and then everybody has it like a mug as if it's hot chocolate, but it's just alcohol and apple cider. So it's very, and then everyone had it. My girlfriend had it, and I was like, I'm the only one not drinking, right? It's like nobody else in my family doesn't drink, so that was a missed opportunity for me to have because they didn't do that last year, right? This was a special occasion because it was a smaller crowd.
How did you
So
feel about that?
just yeah, like it wasn't FOMO, but there was that passing thought of I'm missing out. So it's not like it tugged on me and I was just like like I just felt bad for myself, but it was a moment where I was like, oh, that would have been cool if I could have partaken. So it didn't linger for long, but
Yeah.
just I'm just surprised that that instant even happened in my mind.
I do sell these shirts if you do want to purchase one. They're dot.
Family.
Just throwing the quick adverts.
Yeah, that would be a good time for it, but perfect example of family, right? Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, regardless. It's just one of those things, just
It's
comes
one of
with
those
life.
things.
You're just born. So in that regard, you have family.
Yeah,
But
man.
yeah. But so how did the weekend overall go for you? To slide it back into your direction. You didn't drink, I imagine. Am I correct to
No.
assume that? Yeah.
Yes, you're very correct. Honestly, I don't think I can ever drink ever again.
Yeah. There'd be nothing
It'll
to
turn me like it's like Michael Jackson in Thriller, like when he
turn
turns
you into
into
the
a
werewolf. Yeah.
werewolf. Like I can't.
Yeah. Well, first the werewolf and then the zombie. Will start to rot away and
Yep.
it'll just take
It's
the
the
life temp.
stages. It's the stages. That's the
Yeah.
perfect example. Those are the stages right there.
You turn into a monster and then you turn into a zombie. Yeah.
Yep. No, I
Um,
can't. Could
yeah.
never. But you do think like, wow, there's almost like there's no escape, you know? Like I smoke weed, so like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I'll roll a joint or something, but it's like, there's only like
It's
so much weed you can smoke. It's like, okay,
yeah,
that's
it
it.
doesn't count as an event in of itself. So it's just
Yeah,
something you
so
do, but then you're still kind of left there. Yeah.
yeah. So it's like sometimes you just feel like you want an escape, you know? So
Yeah.
I realize that I'm just 100% really focused on like business, and
Yeah.
I feel like I don't really have any like hobbies. Like I mean, this is a hobby. I really
Yeah.
enjoy doing this, and this is something
Yeah.
we do every week. But yesterday we had to reschedule, and that really kind of it threw me off. So it's like I like when things go like kind of to schedule, and when things pop up and go off of my schedule, it really throws me off, and I just
Yeah.
like again it just changes me. It's like certain things I wanna the reason why I set things up this way is so that I can have complete control of everything, and I think that's my issue is I don't uh,
Well, no, no,
uh
no. I wouldn't even say it's control. It's just ease of mind, right? You're not controlling me. I don't feel like you're restricting anything, my actions whenever we do this stuff. So I wouldn't say it's control at all. It's just it's a control of information at the very least, right? It's just
mhm.
understanding and having expectations that are met and just an ease of mind, right? Knowing what's coming. That's different than
Yeah.
control. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, true, because that's how yeah, that's how I feel sometimes. I'm just like, oh my goodness, I'm like panicking, and then like I just want to like just like sometimes you just want to just like stop thinking. It's like, oh my goodness, and this is why I think a lot of people come home and they have a drink because it really does just kind of ease the mind. It really does just let you relax. It really does
It's
go
the
that step.
de-stressor.
Yeah, it goes that
Yeah.
step further than smoking a joint or something. And like in Canada, we're
Mhm.
smoking weed is legal, guys, so it's just the
Hell
norm.
yeah. No, we're not talking about any kind of nefarious activities. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can just go pick up a
100%.
joint and smoke the joint, and it's whatever. It's like it
Yeah.
was that was like kind of like my treat. It's like okay, like I try to make the better of things. So what I did the
Yeah.
next day after Thanksgiving, now everything's opened. I went and got myself a nice like it's different types of meats. I
Mhm.
roasted them,
Nice.
potatoes, pasta, bread, little things like this I made, and then I had a nice big meal for myself, gravy, all that jazz. I didn't have cranberry
Nice.
though,
Yeah.
corn. I didn't have
Mhm.
cranberry though. That's the only thing I didn't have. I was like, why didn't I have cranberry?
It sounds like
Um,
a perfect meal to me.
and then dessert I had for s'mores. So I just
Oh, wow.
made better of like my
The
own
weekend.
situation. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
I realized that that's kind of like sometimes when I don't like am not busy doing things, that's when I can be at my worst. And I think that's why I constantly I'm so dedicated to like work and like just constantly I'm just like work, 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 work. I just want to make a certain amount of money in a day. If I can make the certain amount of money in a day, I'm like, oh, I can breathe.
I wish I had that mentality. Which, yeah, it is a blessing and a curse because that can lead to stress. But I, I don't have that mentality, and a lot of days will pass by where I make exactly $0. But yeah, that's it's what's that saying? The devil works with idle hands. Obviously, it's, not to emphasize Christianity too much in this regard, but just as a general saying, the boredom can bring out the worst in people. Absolutely. It's good to
Yeah.
stay busy. It's a general philosophy of life is having work, right? It's not just a
Yeah.
capitalist philosophy, it's a general philosophy of mental well-being. Have tasks, perform tasks, if it wasn't working in marketing like 1,000 years ago, it was farming. It's like so long as you have a certain amount of tasks that you get to do in a given day, you feel that progress, you can feel that accomplishment, even if it's just maintaining things, shoveling poo, whatever. It's like you're still doing something that you can say, I did good. Today was good. Now I can relax, knowing that I did what I wanted to do today.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
That is a really big issue with me. Like a really,
right.
really big issue with me where like sometimes I can't go through a day of not doing something. Like it's
Yeah.
almost sickening because it's like I neglect other things. Like I'll neglect like my laundry will just be in my dryer for like all week.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
No, I
then
know
the
that. I know that feeling. I've done
and then the
that.
next week I'm just like, okay, I'll just re-dry. I don't know. I sometimes I'll
Yeah, it's been
rewash
too
it and then
long. Yeah.
re-dry it and then because I don't want it to be wrinkly. So I'm like, okay, I'll rewash it. Then I'm thinking in my head, why the heck did you do that? You just wasted so much water. People don't have water. And then I'm just like thinking now you should be you have to kind of beat yourself up a little bit because you're being a fool for not getting your time organized. Instead, you worked till like 1 in the morning. You could have just
Hmm.
ended it at say 11:30, 12, folded those clothes and went to bed. And now you're
Yeah.
not wasting another gallon of water. And then now you're not beating yourself up. And it's like a constant cycle of like me just going like insane.
Yeah. Well, f finding excuses to be upset almost, right? It's one
Yeah,
of those
I
things
don't.
where if you take a moment to breathe, you do the whole 10 seconds of just breathing, it can
Man.
remind you of how easy life actually is, and it's us that make things complicated.
Yeah, and
Ridiculous. Yeah.
I think that's what I'm like my worst. Is that it? I'm like my worst enemy. I think I'm literally like
Yeah.
my worst enemy. Like I just my dad is literally every minute just sending me LOL like don't stress out, don't stress out. And I'm like flipping, like I'm going like crazy, like sending so I'm just thinking I've never acted this way in like years. Like this is like when I was like in the management, like what's going and then I'm looking back on it the next day I'm like what is like who was that person? Like it's like
Mhm.
imagine and I told my dad I was like imagine if I was drinking like this you guys would have like something like would have happened where like it's almost like in the movie Flight where
Yeah.
he like just destroys the entire hotel room. It's like that's
Hmm.
what I felt like I would have done because
Yeah.
you're just so infuriated from the inside that you just have no you just need to
No
destroy
proper
something
outlet.
like you just need to like
Yeah.
yeah I literally was like I need to just like punch my hand through a wall or something and it's like that's not going to solve anything.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking I need to put this energy somewhere else. I'm thinking, okay, I need to like focus on nutrition, getting like
Hmm.
working out, and I but then the gyms are closed. So it's like now have brought a whole bunch of weights and things like this, and I
Yeah.
reorganized my bedroom. I went and got a whole bunch of new light systems and like all these things where I
Yeah.
can feel a bit better about where I am and things like this, where I don't have to like you mentioned, you go to bed and you just feel accomplished
Yeah.
where it's not so much about just working and making money in 24 hours. It's about things that fulfill me on the inside. And maybe
Hmm.
that will help ease that rage that I don't know why it's buried in me.
Hmm.
But again, it only comes out when there's like family. And I realize this, it's like I know I'll get this anxiety again come Christmas and like New Year's.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
always around like family like events. I get very like stressed out and nervous and like they'll text me and it's like I will literally shut my phone off for days because I just don't want to deal with it. And then
Hmm.
because my phone shut off for days, I'm now not going to turn my phone back on because I'm so scared that
You
when I
know
turn
it's
it back
waiting.
on, There's going to
Mhm.
be so much stuff that I can't deal with. So I
Yeah.
have to wait a certain amount of days till it's like, okay, you know what? I'm in the right headspace, in the right frame of mind that now I can turn my phone off.
Yeah. You need one good night's sleep and then you can wake up and be ready for it. That
It's
kind of
that
stuff.
bad. Like I
Yeah.
like
Yeah. But you're
that's what
you're at least managing. Well, yeah, the silver lining in all of this is that one of the greatest aspects of the human mind is our ability to adapt. So even though you have like this anger inside you, and even though you have such a dysfunctional family, at the very least towards you, you're able to survive. It doesn't kill
yes,
you. It doesn't completely break you down, right? You
it does.
feel like this edging of like a breakdown happening, but you're able to manage and maintain yourself. And so even though you might look back and saying, I'm upset that I wasted so much time redoing the laundry or stressing about things that didn't matter, or I'm waking up in with sweat, you're still able to fulfill goals and perform tasks, and you're able to survive, right? And you've been able to do it so far. So think of it more as is just like you've experienced a lot of pain, a lot more than me, right? Like I can't imagine what you've actually been through in your life, but I can at least know that we both hold the same intrinsic element to us that comes with every human mind, which is the ability to adapt and survive. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not just environmentally, obviously, it's mentally, it's introspectively, right? And
Yeah,
we were able to put
100%.
this together and actually talk about what's going on in our lives, right? This is an
Yeah.
outlet for us, not so much as content for our audience, but also as a therapeutic device where we can air dirty laundry, whatever we have, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and I just thank you that you have the trust in me to be able to talk to me about this stuff and that I have the same
Yeah, I
for
love
you.
to.
Yeah.
And yeah, vice
And
versa.
yeah. And we have the openness to make this a public broadcast as well, right? And because there's a lot of other people who might not have someone to talk to, and this can be something for them at the very least to relate to, or even better for them to reach out to us. And then, that could also be something that we would be open to, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's the same
always.
as us
We
creating this
appreciate
in the
it.
first place. It's just about a conversation. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It just really just I do you know what I always like kind of relate to is like, okay, do you remember I was telling you about like how like vampires and things like this and like
Yeah.
how I I've never felt this way until like for a while, a very, very long time. And it reminded me of how I used to be and how much I've changed.
Hmm.
Um, so back in the day, when I was drinking, I really thought that like it was almost like I was a vampire. I really thought this, and there was also like it's an analogy of like that's how bad I wanted to drink always.
You were literally possessed. Yeah.
Yeah,
You were
like
like an
that's how bad I
animal. You're a
really wanted to
creature.
drink. Like yeah,
Yeah.
it's like so there was this thing where like I felt like there's always inside of me there's always like this flame, like a flame that's like waiting for gas to get thrown on it.
Hmm.
And I would always picture like when I would drink, picture like when your body you're looking at your body through an x-ray scan and you're seeing
Hmm.
like the blood vessels
Yeah.
and like the veins and the blood pumping and it's showing like the directions of the blood.
Yeah.
I would always picture my body when the alcohol would go in my body. I would always picture the alcohol feeding that flame.
Yeah.
It's so strange. Like I'd always do this, and depending on how much I drank, it would let a certain amount of alcohol in that thing. And then
Hmm.
this movie, The Dark Phoenix, came out not too long ago. A few years ago, this
Yeah.
movie, Dark Phoenix, came out, and I kind of related to like certain just times where like she just like started like getting hot, like I don't know, just certain times where like you can see like the flame inside of her just like it's starting to grow a bit before she
Yeah.
turns into the phoenix. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
i'm
I have.
sure
I
you
have. Yeah.
i'm sure you can kind of get the idea of like when she would get angry, certain you can just tell that there's something inside.
Yeah. Her emotions were building up visually. Like you were able to
Yeah.
see it with, yeah, like this outwardly, because yeah, I don't know what to call it. If it was a flame or some kind of plasma, whatever the alien entity that possessed her body was. Yeah, it would
Yes.
grow when her emotions built up. Yeah. And
So essentially, after having this kind of argument with my family and things like this, I
yeah.
realized that that was a trigger for me to drink because
Yeah.
what I would do is I had this thing where turn my humanity off. I know this sounds really crazy, but it was like I would have zero emotion. Like I would pick a point and be like, okay, so that's how they want to do it. I am now officially turning my humanity off, and from this point on, there's no Mr. Nice Guy. You don't know me anymore. You don't know that. And I would literally go into like a phase where I would be super like destructive,
Mhm.
but not to like really to people, but more to like just myself. Like I would just
Yeah.
do things that was like just destructive. Like I don't know how to
Mhm.
describe it. Like I would
Well,
just
that's what drinking is in a way, is self-destructive. So
yeah.
that's what you would do, but in a general sense, not just with drinking. Yeah.
Like anything that pissed me off, I would let you know. Anything that's
Mhm.
when I like realized I was like my friends, my social circle would like kind of start to diminish because I would literally cuss them out for every single thing that pissed me off. Anything, just I was just a totally like even in like bars with friends, I would always just be
Yeah.
like, say a friend brought a friend
Yeah.
and they said something that I didn't like, and I would just call them out on it instantly. Instantly,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
just you're ready to see like what are you here ready to fight always? Like that would be me always, all the time, on ready.
Just
I
on
would say that
edge.
I'm on
Yeah.
ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, let's go.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
And with alcohol that and other people drinking that could cause fight and then things would I would start fights and I'm realizing that's how I used to act and that's really thinking about it, this is the stem of like my alcoholism is my family because
Hmm.
I last like even not last night but like just the night before last night I was kind of just reflecting and then last night I just felt like so much more calm and just more like myself again
Yeah.
because it's kind of I just kind of like had time to kind of just let it simmer a bit, you know?
Yeah.
And I just really realized that like that is maybe where this anger and rage comes from in my dreams and
Yeah.
this like infuriation with like my family. I think it has to do with my family and
Yeah.
something must be something from like when my mom passed away. From that point on I'm still trying to figure it out. Like it's like almost like I have to go into the matrix, which is like my dreams, and kind of
Yeah.
really just pick apart what's happening in the dream so that in my current life when I handle certain things, I can really reflect. Okay, this is why I'm like I. It's that's how it is for me right now.
Yeah. Well, it's hidden in your subconscious, and it's like, how are you supposed to know what the problem is if you can't even see it? So you have to try to find a way to actually even see what's happening
It's
behind
hard,
the
man.
scenes. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hard. I'm going through it and I'm like, this is like I'm 3 years sober. And I'm just thinking this is almost harder than when I just stopped drinking from the beginning. I'm like, this is
Hmm.
just
Well,
madness. How do
it's the
people
same
deal with
thing.
this?
Yeah, it's you becoming self-aware about something that your brain isn't even giving you access to. And somehow you're supposed to do this impossible task of knowing what your brain won't let you know in order to fix it and make it better. Yeah. Yeah, it's impossible. It's like the wall that joggers talk about, where they'll get to a place mentally where they hit a wall
Okay.
where their brain is like, no, you're not going to continue. And you have to somehow literally break your own brain to get through this sensation. And then the second you do, with joggers, obviously it's different because their hearts racing like crazy because they've been jogging for however many hours. So they start to feel extremely euphoric. And it's a very pleasurable feeling. But obviously, if you're not exerting yourself physically, I don't know what the sensation would be, but yeah, it's about breaking this mental wall. That's like it's impossible until you do it. It's like
Yeah.
finding the back room code in the computer of your mind, where it's like, how can you do that? You don't know the password. You have to try to somehow hack it and like get behind it. It's
hmm
crazy. Yeah, I
It's
don't know what to
really,
do.
really, it's really interesting. It's very like it's almost just makes me feel like we can like even if you want, we can kind of go into the second part of the episode,
Right. Yeah.
and kind of just relate. I kind of like I'm watching the movie and I'm just thinking like, damn, am I crazy? Like, yeah, with
Just
like
with what he
I
was
don't know
going
how.
through and
Yeah, like you just
yeah.
realize it's like they're dealing with so many things mentally,
Mhm.
where it's like, does this do I technically really have the shining? Like, I don't know. Do I? Maybe I do.
Right. Yeah, yeah. You can find a really close connection with what they're dealing with and yeah, it can seem
Yeah.
almost eerie. Yeah. Well, yeah, so if we're jumping into part two now, we'll start by
You,
saying goodbye to the lovely audience, and we'll see you guys next time because we are going to be breaking this up. So just know
oh, yeah,
that
it's true.
as
True, true,
soon
true.
as this episode ends, get ready for the next episode. We didn't know if we're going to do it a week apart or a little less than that, but part two will begin now. So we'll see you
Yes.
guys, and
And thank you so much for listening. And also, if you have
yeah,
this one that was kind of a little bit of a heavier topic, so happy
well, a lot more
Thanksgiving.
intimate. Yeah,
Yeah, and if you have anything to relate to or want to chat, don't be shy to hit us up on YouTube, Instagram, email, all that jazz.
yeah,
Stuff will be linked below.
yeah.
So, again, be safe, be happy, and give thanks. Bye.